Paige Bueckers made a triumphant return last night in Queens. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just wanted to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you. We appreciate all of your support. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world, and we're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. To show that gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, follow, leave a review wherever you listen. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5. Get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, so Paige Bueckers, we talked about it last night in the pregame show, was back last night. We found out about 2 hours before game time that she was available for the Big East road game in Queens at St. John's. Very familiar with the Queens area, having lived in Forest Hills for almost 2 years, as did my sister. So that St. John's campus is really interesting. Playing on campus, I would imagine, is no picnic, but the Paige Bueckers effect was in full force. I saw some of the post-game stuff from our friends Maggie Vanoni and Emily Adams with her signing autographs and just kind of people really clamoring over her. And we'll get into what this UConn basketball program has created, even in a year that was dominated by the headlines of Caitlin Clark. And we'll talk about that in a second. But it was a night to remember for Paige. She, after sitting out the last two games with what felt like a massive knee injury, it turned into just a simple knee sprain. She was fantastic in her return. I think Gino said that he wanted to play her a few less minutes, but he joked around with her, joked around in the post game that he said that she said to him, that I'm not on a minutes restriction. He said, no, you are. And she kind of really wasn't in that respect. So it's interesting, the banter with her and him. It kind of reminds me of the back and forth between him and Diana Taurasi. And we're going to talk about that with T. Baker tomorrow on the show. But 71-45 win over St. John's at Carnesecca Arena. Paige was back in the action. She didn't waste any time reminding everybody why she's one of the best in the game. Started the night strong with an off-balance jumper. She quickly set the tone for the Huskies. She finished with 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals in just under 23 minutes. It was like 22 and a half, something like that. She's now just 6 points away from becoming the fastest UConn player in the history to reach 2,000 career points, a milestone that really is going to be achieved against Seton Hall on Sunday. So I think my takeaway from this game is very, very similar to what I said on the pregame show that we did shortly before the game started with Bella Tamano, our Locked On UConn co-host and contributor and beat reporter for the Hoops pod, the Hoops Capital Substack. We talked about how this St. John's team was not going to put up a fight. I think the spread was 22.5, and we said to bet that if that's the case. Finally, we got one right? So if you won some money last night, you're welcome. But I think also we said that, this team is going to play hard and they're a pretty good defensive team. So holding UConn to just 71 points was kind of a moral victory for St. John's. But, Paige returning is the story. It's not necessarily, that she was going to, score 30 points tonight, but just her being back has to give this team just such a psychological lift, right? She said it herself. I'm just glad to be back out there. The first game back, you just want to get your feet wet, feel the pace, the physicality again. She said, but I'm feeling good. So all good things. You get Paige back. No one gets hurt. You got Aubrey Griffin coming back. Now we're going to talk about Allie Ziebell, maybe or Ziebell. I always feel like I say it wrong, and then I get in my head about what I'm saying. And so Allie is back. Hopefully how she could be a game changer for this team. UConn started this game red hot, shooting an astounding 71.4% in the first quarter, including a buzzer-beating three-pointer from Ashlyn Shade. Love to see her stepping up and doing good things. Nobody was particularly good tonight. They were all just solid. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll look at the box score. Huskies offense slowed a little in the second quarter. Their defense stepped up, holding St. John's just 11 points. Coach Oriema used the opportunity to test different lineups, showcasing that depth that we've been talking about all year, and essentially how that's going to 100% position them to be a force once we get into the NCAA tournament. Gino on Paige. She looked like she picked up where she left off, but the stamina isn't quite there yet. Paige isn't a robot, and we can't just push a button. I love Gino's quotes. They might be my favorite in sports. Him, Dan Hurley. There's some other ones out there. Dan Campbell. Maybe it's something about the name Dan, but and Gino's just one of one, right? AZ Fudd, fantastic again tonight. Again, we talked about this real quick. I'm going to go to the box score. If you look at the box score, Sarah Strong had a pedestrian game. 24 points. Didn't really 24 minutes, not points. Everyone kind of played that plateau minutes of 24 was the most. AZ Fudd played. It's encouraging to see AZ play the most minutes, right? 24 minutes. AZ played 25. Caitlin 20. Jana 17. Paige 22. Ice played 16 minutes. Morgan 21. Allie played 11. Ashlyn 16. Cadence 6, and then KK Arnold with 21. I mean, everyone had very similar stat lines, right? So you have KK with 6 points and 4 assists. Sarah Strong, 6 points, 5 assists. Caitlin Chen, 5 points, 3 assists. AZ and Paige both with 13 as well, respectively. And Paige with her, normal 5 rebounds, a couple steals. Surprisingly, no assists from Paige tonight. Just kind of a weird game for that respect. No assists from AZ either, but it almost didn't need it. You're playing in a small arena against a team that has no shot against you, but you're just trying to, again, get your feet wet and really just kind of impose your will. Obviously, as it always happens with UConn games, when they force turnovers, not as many in this game for St. John's. They only had 15. But as we said in the broadcast beforehand, this is not a good three-point shooting team. They attempted 24 threes and only made 5. Not exactly what that UConn was shooting the lights out, 4 for 14 from 3. But Ashlyn Shade was 2 of 3. That's important for me and her contributions. They shot almost 57% overall as a team, holding St. John's to just 32%. So it really was just a mismatch, right? Good to see Paige back. Good to see Allie get some run, 11 minutes. She had 2 points. She missed a 3. She missed a field goal, but she had 2 rebounds. Morgan, again, 7 points, 4 rebounds. Love to see her contribution. Jana Elfie, I said, today could be a big game for her. I was correct. In terms of 8 points, 6 rebounds. She only missed 1 shot. She had a block, she committed no fouls, which is great. So, I think the team is really coming together, and it couldn't happen at a better time, right? Because you're going to continue to have these moments where you're not playing tough competition, but you still have to kind of lay it out there. Can't coast, use Gino's term, just because you play someone, you can't just push a button. Another step forward for them. They play Seton Hall on Sunday. All eyes will be on Paige Bueckers again as she chases UConn history to be the fastest to 2,000 points. UConn looks to make a deep run this season, right? There's no other alternatives for UConn other than Final Four plus, right? And I think that should be the benchmark. I think as a fan base, we need to stop thinking that if you don't win a championship, it's a failed season, because getting to the Final Four this year would be a fantastic endeavor, considering you haven't had a full team until essentially when Aubrey Griffin comes back. Because Caroline Ducharme, if she comes back in March, for the Big East tournament, like Gino said, awesome. That's like throwing an extra vet that can get some stuff done in the mix. But for the most part, once Aubrey comes back, we talked about the 15th and today's the 16th being kind of that line of demarcation. So maybe she's back in a couple days. Maybe she's back for Seton Hall or next week. We'll see. I'm going to take my cues from Gino and not speculate, but we'd love to see her back. Well, so Paige will make history on Sunday. That'll be a fun must-see situation. We'll be here to cover it on Monday morning. And guys, this has just been a nice little easy victory for them against St. John's. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's a new era of women's basketball. And it's been started by two of UConn's biggest stars and legends. We're going to tell you what it is coming up after the break. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. It's a big bet, right? Get that win, get that $300, keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate. They have a variety of bets, keeping every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're back on Locked On UConn. Hope you guys are enjoying the new background. I did a little refresh of the office. I'm going to do a little, you can see my Ed Walsh All-Stars. Yes, my Meriden roots are showing there, but I have talked about this. Like, my family's means everything to me, but don't have pictures of them behind me. I have pictures of them on my desk, but I do have my favorite movie of all time, Jaws, and obviously the UConn Huskies, my favorite team of all time. So, no disrespect to my Giants love or even the Yankees, but UConn, it was always UConn, right? Anyway, the new era of women's basketball, the evolution of this sport reaches an exciting new milestone this week with the debut of Unrivaled, a groundbreaking new league created by UConn great Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. The league introduces a reimagined 3-on-3 format blending fast-paced play with a focus on player well-being, salaries, and innovation. Kicking off Friday in Miami, this league is already poised to reshape how professional women's basketball is played and perceived. So, from my understanding, we're going to get into some of the quotes from players and others. Why this is so important to the sport of women's basketball is because for years, and I think people kind of swept this under the rug for a long period of time because people were making money in it, and it kind of like didn't matter to people as much. But, could you imagine a world where, take the men's side, imagine a world where Donovan Clingan declares for the draft and he gets drafted, but as a part of his draft in his college, in his basketball world, he has to then go play 6 months of the year in Turkey or Russia or Italy so that he can make the amount of money that he needs to continue his basketball journey, right? That's what women's basketball had to do. Decades and decades, WNBA players have supplemented their income by playing overseas during the offseason. A path often that's led to injuries, long travel, cultural challenges, even safety concerns, with how Brittany Griner got detained in Russia. Now, you can argue that that was her fault. You can argue that she was a pawn in some like geopolitical game. That's not what this show's about. The point is, if you don't want to go play overseas anymore, you don't have to with this new era of women's basketball. This is what Fee said in her as a league co-founder. We wanted to create something sustainable where players can thrive. Unrivaled gives us the chance to stay close to home, grow the sport domestically, and still compete at an elite level. This is what's exciting. The competitive salaries still pales in comparison to their NBA counterparts, but you have to understand that if you can't just pay people the amount of money that the NBA players get, because you got to get the ratings, you got to get the TV deals, you have to essentially have enough money in the coffers for it to work. And if you run a business, you understand that. If you don't, you just want the immediate gratification. But the cool thing is there's an $8 million salary pool right now. I think it's 36 players. So most players are earning six figures with equity in the league providing long-term value, right? So what that means is when, in terms of the basketball world, if this thing grows to now a $50 or $60 million pod, all those players that are in it early are now, it's now a sustainable product, and they're going to get equity in the company. If it ever sells to a larger entity, they'll get some money on the back end. So, but I think the biggest thing is the player amenities, right? You have from daycare to luxury apartments. They've all been taken care of, right? Miami's sunny backdrop and the proximity to entertainment further enhance the player experience. There's like this interesting exclusive format where it's a 3-on-3 format played on a full-size court. The games are quick, they're high energy, they're designed for both players and fans. A 3-quarter system culminates in a thrilling winning score finish, ensuring each game ends in a dramatic high note. So we're going to get into a little bit more of that later I want to see it first. Like you can hear about it, you can read about it, but it starts tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where everything goes and to see how much fun it is. The inaugural season is all like literally UConn littered, right? You have Stephanie Dolson, Katie Lou Samuelson, Aaliyah Edwards, Connecticut Sun stars like Alyssa Thomas and Dejanay Carrington. Add a little more like local flavor if you're a Connecticut Sun fan. League investor Gino Auriemma on this. The level of competition will be unmatched. It's incredible to see former players pushing the sport forward, giving others opportunities to thrive without even leaving the country. It's a win for everyone, players, fans, and the game itself, right? So some of you who are basketball purists are like, oh, 3-on-3, come on, man. It's meant to be fun. So and it pays these players so they can continue to craft their game here in the States. So if you're upset about 3-on-3, I'm sorry. Let's talk about it. Full court, unlike FIBA's half court 3-on-3. So that's kind of cool. Like, do you know how tiring a 3-on-3 full court game is going to be? Whew. Let me tell you, man. So they have a winning score finish after 3 quarters. The leading team score plus 11 becomes the target. So similar to the Elam ending, which is really interesting because there's always a game-ending finish, which I love. I love that type of finish because, as you guys know, again, basketball purists, whether you're watching women's or men's, at the end of games, if it's close, it becomes a free throw shooting contest. So whichever team reaches the target score first wins the game. No overtime needed. Love it. Shorter shot clock. 18-second shot clock keeps the action fast-paced. Player-centric fouling rules. Players foul out after 6 infractions, but to avoid forfeits, a fouled out player can remain in the game without penalties. So all these games are going to be broadcast live on TNT. Additional coverage on True TV Max, formerly HBO Max. The league's debut doubleheader begins Friday at 7 o'clock. 850-seat custom arena in Medley, Florida, just outside of Miami. Schedule in midseason highlights. The season runs until March. The games will be on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. A break in February features a high-stakes one-on-one tournament, which is pretty cool, offering $250,000 to the winner and an additional $10,000 for their teammates, a showcase of individual skill with a team-oriented framework, which is fantastic. What's cool is even current players in college are investing in this. Paige Bueckers, Flau'jae Johnson, have invested and said they've already said they're going to play in this once they turn professional, which is a huge coup for both Bree and Fee, because if you're running a business and you already have $8 million dedicated to the 36 players that are going to be in this tournament, if it continues to grow, and then you add someone like Paige, who is an absolute dynamo when it comes to, selling, and people want to see her, right? I think it's going to be an interesting product, and I can't wait to look it up. So can't wait to check it out. So Unrivaled again tomorrow. Check it out on TNT. I think it'll be really cool. Don't miss the history of it, and let's see if our UConn gals can really change the course of women's basketball like they have before. Why not do it again, right? Let's talk about how amazing this team is, that they had a $3.25 million in ticket sales and where that is, and also why I still believe Allie Ziebell is the game changer that's going to propel UConn potentially to that elusive 12th national championship. Coming up after the break. This message is brought to you by PrizePicks, the place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions in winnings. PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports, whether it's in the playoffs or regular season. PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying the football action. Now it's time for playoff time. You can hit your picks. You can get up to 100x your cash. Yes, that's right. 100 times your money. So $1,000. Crazy, right? Just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about the hot takes this year with Lamar Jackson, because I think he's going to go over 250 yards passing, and Travis Kelce is going to get over more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict these things. It's all it is over under flex play. You can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, just $50 just for playing for a $5 lineup. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn with your host here, Mark Zanetto. If you notice, we have this new format here that just shows my name and at Locked On UConn. If you want to follow me at Mark Zanetto CBB, Locked On UConn is at Locked On UConn is on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. We haven't done Blue Sky yet, but we'll probably will at some point. So, look, this UConn women's team just released last season's tickets. Like how much they made, right? And we're going to go right to that right now. We talked about this a little bit last night, but it needs to be said again. It's amazing that they got 3.25 in ticket sales last season in a year where I don't know what was the call for all of last year with women's basketball. It was Caitlin Clark is dominating. She's selling out arena. She's doing this. Well, when you look at this, I'm gonna pause the podcast for a second because I want to put this chart up, and I want you to see how much further UConn was than Iowa last year in ticket sales. All right, you're back. Check this out. All right, so this is from 2017 to 2023. The UConn women's basketball ticket sales have outpaced every team by a wide margin. And if you see who's consistent with this, Tennessee has been actually consistent since 2017 all the way to 22-23. So last year, in a year, you can kind of see the Hawkeye right here, right? In like probably 1.3. So we essentially doubled their ticket sales with 3.25. And if you didn't know this already, they outpaced 75 D1 men's basketball teams for ticket sales. And that includes some pretty big names like Oregon, Alabama, LSU. Those are some pretty big-time programs. I mean, in particular with Alabama, the way they've been playing lately on the men's side. Nuts, right? 2021, obviously, for COVID and whatnot, but everything else. I mean, the UConn women's basketball is its own cottage industry. And I'm thankful that you guys listen to me every once in a while about this sport because they've given so much to this country and to this sport in terms of the culture of women's college basketball. Because let's face it, without UConn, you guys aren't sniffing anything. Like you can talk about South Carolina, you can talk about Iowa, but the proof is in the pudding. Like look at that disparity, guys. Like it's crazy. It's more than 2 times. They're not even at 1.5 million. We're at 3.25. It's like 2.5 times. Crazy, like blackjack, right? All right, that's here nor there. I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that. If you're only listening audio wise, go to sportico.com. I believe is the website to check that out. Yeah, and you can see the graph. It's crazy that the UConn women have been able to do this. In that respect. Yeah, I mean, I love it. Anyway, what I will say about that Unrivaled network, I hope they are smart, and I hope they end up doing. I'm not trying to get. I'm not trying to get the all of our sports onto streaming, but what I want entrepreneurs to know is that the streaming platform is where it needs to go, right? If you want to watch that Unrivaled, you pay for it, and I think that's going to be the next evolution of sports in general, right? Where it's you pay to see the different things that you want, right? Whether it's college football, basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball. The NBA has their Sunday ticket. If you want to watch all the NBA games, you got to pay for it, and I think that's where they should end up going. But this was supposed to be about Allie and her potential. I think she is an absolute game changer for them. When she caught fire against Xavier, that was a breakout performance. 17 points, 5 3-pointers. there was a moment where Gino, I guess, looked over at his bench to his assistants, Jamel and Tanya, and said, "I told you so." And they said, "Yeah, go ahead and say it." He said, "I didn't want to say it, but once she starts making shots, a lot's going to go in, and a lot of them are going in, right?" And I love that he's given her this green light, and I think she's going to continue to live up to that prediction, right? Um, and she's not just a shooter. Even though she's 39 of her 49 field goal attempts this season have come from beyond the arc, she's got offensive skill that extends well beyond her perimeter shooting. I think a pivotal moment in that game against Xavier showed that versatility where, she could have just launched a three. She pump fake. She kind of came in, shot a mid-range jumper at the buzzer. She is such an X factor. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that she can put it all together so that, look, if she's open in a big game in down the stretch, she's not afraid to shoot, man. That's what I love about her. And because I was a shooter, shooters never have a conscience. You just can't. There's no conscience. If you're open, you shoot. If not, you kick it. Simple as that, right? We've seen her. We haven't really seen her at her best, but Oriana said when I've seen her at her best, she's really, really aggressive offensive player, which I love. She's has got adaptability. I think her teammates see that potential. She, AZ was like, everyone was finding her. It was like she was wide open, and she even commented like, "What are they doing on defense to leave her wide open?" Right? And what I would say to AZ is, who are we supposed to leave open? You, like one of the best shooters in the country. So Allie's got to prove it, and she's going to continue to. So once she's got complete control of her game, she's going to be instant offense, whether she starts or she comes off the bench. So the challenge really is moving forward is to maintain that aggressiveness and make coach have to play you. What's the phrase? When a coach puts you in there, you got to make yourself undeniable that he doesn't want to take you out of the game. And sometimes she does that, and sometimes she doesn't. And that's the same. That same goes with Morgan Shelley, right? When these freshmen come in, they got to prove it. So and this is a quote from Gino: "When Allie gets going, she's hard to stop, and we're only scratching the surface with what she can do." All right, y'all. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, and to remember it's not just about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way that it can't be done any better. That's our goal every day. And don't forget, go Huskies.